Welcome to the Village of Bartlett Board meeting for August 16, 2016. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens? Here. Kammerer?
Here.
Carbonaro?
Here.
Janey?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Ranky?
Here.
President Wallace?
Here. I've requested that Reverend Susan Terrell do our invocation this evening. Reverend?
Let us pray. You are always in our midst, Holy One. Conversations and hopes, discerning comments and questions to be answered, this body gathers, O God, to make decisions on behalf of the village tonight. Grant listening and patience, careful and gentle words, and neighborly concern, so that all will be heard and wisdom presides. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looking at the flag reminds me how many times we've got to hear the national anthem with the Olympics. Woo-hoo. Moving along to our consent agenda this evening. All items listed on the consent agenda that have an asterisk will be considered enacted in one motion. There'll be no additional discussion for those items. Hearing that, is there anything that any board member would like to add to the consent agenda?
Mr. President, if everyone's in agreement, I'd like to add item C, one which is the Brewster Creek Business Park TIF district refinancing. We talked about that at length last time, and it seemed to be the general consensus of the board that that would be approved.
The amended estimated redevelopment project cost, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
C1?
C1, correct.
Mr. President, I'd like to add items 12A, 1, and 2 to the consent agenda.
Anything else?
Mr. President, I'd like to add F1, the Smart Ready LED street lighting agreement as well.
Everybody okay with that? All right. Anything else? Hearing nothing, I entertain a motion to amend the consent agenda to include the minutes from our meeting, board and committee minutes from July 19th, 2016. Consent agenda will also include the bills list from August 2nd, 2016 and August 16th, 2016. The consent agenda will be amended to include item A under Planning and Zoning, Delicious Grapes and Roadie Special Use. Item A2 under Planning and Zoning, Bartlett Ridge Subdivision. PICA. Under Finance and Golf Committee, Chairman will add amended estimated redevelopment project costs in Bartlett Quarry redevelopment plan. Also, Brewster Creek TIF Developer Note number 3, payout number 36. The consent agenda will also include License and Ordinance Committee, Heritage Oaks Tree Preservation, Damaged Tree Removal, Bartlett Lions Day Dash Parade Permit Request, Banbury Fair Amplifier Permit Request, Heritage Days Amplifier Permit Request, Lomeli Amplifier Permit Request, and amending the consent agenda to add under Public Works Committees the Smart Ready LED Street Lighting Agreement.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Trustee Hopkins, seconded by Trustee Carbonaro. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Kammerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Janey?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Ahrens?
Yes.
Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Kammerer, seconded by Trustee Ahrens. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Carbonaro?
Yes.
Janey?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Ahrens?
Yes.
Kammerer?
Yes.
That motion carries. Next item we have on our list this evening for the meeting is our Treasurer's report. Treasurer?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to start out this evening with the sales tax report. through April 30th, 2016, total sales tax is $2,249,438 and represents a 4.52% increase over the same time period last year. Moving on to the motor fuel tax allotment report, which we're beginning a new fiscal year through May of 2016. Our total is $93,139, and that represents a 3.5% increase over the same time period last year.
And Mr. Treasurer, I know I bother you about this all the time, but if you wouldn't mind letting us know about rumblings in Illinois.
Absolutely. We'll keep our eye on it.
Anything new?
No,
Fuel
I think-
tax issues, anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No, but I think their session starts in November, so we'll hear a lot more by then.
Thank you. Next item we have is the President's report. If you might not have noticed, we have an entire baseball team in our midst.
All right.
So we have a proclamation for them. If you guys want to come on up, and I don't know if there's a baseball formation that you do, or I'd like to see who we're talking about here for the proclamation. And then we're going to have to require that you all take a picture with us all. So just circle right around in here.
Tall ones in back, shorter ones in front.
You guys get to see the names, and then maybe you'll recognize them in 10 years when they're in the bigs, right? Village of Bartlett proclamation to congratulate the Bartlett Royals Little League team on its undefeated season. Whereas the 9 and 10-year-old Bartlett Royals ended their championship Little League season by shaving the heads of their 3 wager-losing but happy coaches, a reward the team earned with their undefeated record. And whereas invoking the mercy rule that ends games early when a team is up by 10 runs allowed the Royals to win 13 of the 16 regular season games in the mercy rule after only 4 innings instead of the normal 6 innings, and the remaining 3 after only 5 innings. I think that's domination. And whereas this winning season was a true model of teamwork, with the 5-man pitching staff allowing only 14 runs the entire regular season, and every ball player scoring a run during 2 of the games. And whereas the team's many hours of practice, hard work, and sheer love of baseball culminated during the last game of the District 13 Tournament of Champions when the Royals beat the Streamwood Yankees 10-0 in 4 innings. And whereas each of these young Little Leaguers took to the ball field, they inspired their family, friends, and their fans, and with their passion, and filled our hearts with unending pride. Now, therefore, I, Kevin Wallace, President of the Village of Bartlett, Cook, DuPage, and Kane counties, do hereby congratulate and applaud the Bartlett Royal Little League champions on their ace pitching, their crackerjack fielding, and their mighty bats. And I further call upon the Bartlett residents to cheer these fierce competitors and their unforgettable season they gave us. Thank you.
No kidding. What a great record, huh?
Unbelievable. Hey, Chrisman.
Smaller size is right back there when you guys take off, okay? You want to group up and maybe get a
Who's your best hitter?
in the middle here.
Oh, come on.
You know, this might work with you guys getting all in the middle, and we can just take a picture.
What, behind here?
Yeah, behind her, yeah.
I think we're going to have to scoot down.
Push the chairs out a little bit and come in closer to me.
I'm going to get TL in here. Got it?
Can anybody say Babe Ruth?
Babe Ruth, yeah. Yeah. How about domination?
Even though you represented the Royals, you're all rooting for the Cubs, right?
Incredible. Just incredible.
Yeah, it really is.
Can I get one more, guys?
One more?
From the smallest.
One more they're doing.
Oh.
They got us.
Nice phone.
Just incredible, you guys. Just incredible. The accomplishment that you made this year, if you can just transport that into the next few years, you'll be riding high.
And we should have kept doing the cake thing or the cookies or something. Next item we have under the President's report is our National Night Out recognitions. So, most of you probably know, some of you may not, but every year we have a National Night Out award ceremony at the official National Night Out. It involves block party awards and citizenship awards and a lot of different awards for residents. The Business Star Awards, Chief, do you want to go through these, or do you want me to go through these? Okay. One of the awards was given to Artie's Towing. It was nominated this year in this year's Business Star Award for its continued support of Bartlett's National Night Out by donating and staffing the large inflatable slide. It's always a big hit. Artie's Towing has also been a strong supporter of Special Olympics and the Bartlett Police Department's DARE Family Fishing Derby. So thank you, Artie's. Moretti's Restaurant and Pizzeria was also a Business Star Award. Moretti's Restaurant was nominated this year for its continued support of National Night Out by donating all of the pizzas for National Night Out tailgate parties at the Jim Jensen Pavilion and the Twilight Skate Park bashes the past few years. So that's a lot of pizzas. Thank you to Moretti's. The Citizen Star Awards, and if you were here, please stand and be recognized. We had Maddie Ruffner, Allison Beccaro, and Tessa Evans. Maddie, Allison, and Tessa were nominated for this year's Citizen Star Award for helping a substitute teacher who had suffered a medical issue at Hawk Hollow Elementary. And these sixth grade students noticed the substitute teacher was in distress and calmly stayed with her and notified another teacher of the medical situation. So these three students were also recognized by the Hawk Hollow principal, Marquisa Bush Mitchell, during the positive behavior interventions and supports school assembly, and they were also recognized as a Citizen Star Award at our National Night Out. We also had Kenny Schlobaum. Kenny was nominated for this year's Citizen Star Award for assisting the Bartlett Police Department with the apprehension of a car burglary suspect. On December 31st, Kenny looked out his window and observed a suspicious person burglarizing unlocked parked vehicles. He immediately called 911 and provided the police department with a detailed description of the suspect. Following a foot chase, Bartlett police charged a juvenile offender with Class 2 felony for burglar, a Class 4 felony for possession of another's credit and debit cards, and a Class 8 misdemeanor or theft. So thank you, Kenny. We also have, as a Citizen Star Award, Joseph Simpson. Joseph was nominated for this year's Citizen Star Award for assisting the Bartlett Police Department with the apprehension of several offenders who committed a residential burglary. Joseph heard the sound of glass breaking and then observed suspects entering the rear window of his neighbor's residence. He immediately called 911 and was able to provide the Bartlett Police Department with a detailed description of the burglary suspects and their vehicle. The suspects were later charged with a Class 1 felony for residential burglary. So thank you to all those who are in. last but certainly not least, one of the fun things that my wife and I do every year is we go around and get an opportunity to visit the block parties on National Night Out, and she would say it's the only fun thing that we get to do all year. But it's really fun, and the block party winners this year, the Rookie of the Year went to Cedar Lane. Renee Young, I think, if she's not here. The best theme went to Summer Sweet Lanes. Stephanie Query. Yay. Glad I recognize you guys. The best participation was the Village Church of Bartlett. Scott Dyack, Village Church of Bartlett was the best participation. Best lighting was Steeplechase. Gary Scheller, the Steeplechase one, that was one that we were able to attend. The most charitable was the Victory Center, Rose Simone. And the best overall was Regency Drive, Charnel Jackson. Well done. All right. My wife put one on for 6 years, so thank you, folks, for doing that. It is such a great time, and you get to meet people that you usually wouldn't meet, so thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This evening, I would like to present an award that has taken the Village of Bartlett 6 years to get back to where it belongs. The annual softball game between the Village and the Chamber of Commerce was indeed a great event enjoyed by everyone who was there. I still cannot believe the sum of the ages of the Chamber's infield players still did not add up to my age. We had a stellar performance by our defense, and that defense kept us in the game. The pitching was not the only asset that we had in our arsenal. Comments like, "This is the first time in years that the Village was actually in the lead?" Our umpire, Greg, was the cause of all the trouble. At the top of the sixth, with 2 outs to go, is not the time to walk out to the pitcher and say, "Just so you know, you have a no-hitter going." Ironically, the next batter singled to left field, at which time Greg replied, "At least you still have a shutout going." Yeah, thanks. With all that said, it was a good time, had by all, of course. The annual roof-of-mouth pizza burning ritual was practiced as well at Bannerman's. Thanks again to all who helped bring the trophy home to the Village Hall.
All right.
Let's leave this up here and gloat about it for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is the first time in 6 years we beat the Chamber.
And nobody pulled anything.
I think I requested Valerie to get a few of our police department folks on the team, and they definitely made a difference, Chief. Thank you for giving them a little time to swing the bat for the Village.
Good.
And those of you on the board that didn't get a chance to play and squire yourselves up, I think we got to make sure it's mandatory next year.
Everybody's got to take a swing.
Thank you, Vince. Next item, we have question and answer. That was part of it. Anybody else have any other things they'd like to address for the board?
Well, I heard a good joke.
Okay.
You want to hear it? It's a Bartlett joke.
Okay.
Well, you know, we have been under consideration about chickens and stuff. And the joke is, why did the chicken cross the road?
Why?
To get the heck out of Bartlett.
Maybe to come to Bartlett.
That's it.
Anybody else?
Can't top that.
Next, we have the town hall portion of the meeting. Anybody who'd like to address the board, please step up to the podium and kindly state your name and your address for the clerk, so she'll have a record, and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and village trustees. My name is George Koziol, K-O-Z-I-O-L. Address is 654 Hazelnut Court, Bartlett. I'm here this evening as a show of confidence and support for the Downtown Todd Plan, which we will be discussing during the Committee of the Whole tonight. I am confident that you read and reviewed the plan at least once. I am confident that you will do the right thing by endorsing the plan and thereby providing Bartlett with a plan, a model, a list that will serve the citizens well for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koziol. Anyone else like to address the board at this time?
Hello, and good evening. My name is Suzanne Launer, Launer, and I live at 760 Thornberry Court in Bartlett. I came here tonight to voice my disapproval of the plans referred to as the Spalding Road Improvement Project. I come here representing the Castle Creek Homeowners Association, who was only just made aware of this project in late July. My concerns are as follows. There's been limited communication of these plans with the residents of these communities, and consequently, we haven't been able to voice our concerns up until now. Our property values have already taken a dive. My home is worth less than half of what I paid for it in 2004, and now we're suffering another hit in value from the new trucking facility that's being built just north of our neighborhood. Enduring the construction noise and dust in the summer means homeowners can't open windows and enjoy summer. The increased truck noise, pollution, smell, and traffic is going to detract even further from the neighborhood. The proposal to relocate the junkyard driveway to the north side and add parking will further devalue our properties as industry encroaches even closer into our neighborhood community. Traffic to Lambert is going to increase even more. Furthermore, having a clear sight of line into the junkyard from a playground is not only unsightly but poses a potential danger to children who play there. I moved to Bartlett to be a part of a family-oriented community and to be part of a beautiful community. Not only have I lost a significant investment in my property due to the economy, now industry is taking away my neighborhood. I'm here tonight to make it be known that we are not in support of this proposal, nor do we feel as though the village has made appropriate efforts to alert us in a timely manner. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Allison Ozog, 568 Versailles Drive, Bartlett, Castle Creek. I again am here to talk about the Spalding improvement and how we are against it. I will like to thank Officer Elrich for calling me and telling me he was going to contact Global Recycling about their parking. So I will say that there has been one slight improvement since the last time, I want to say was July 20th is when I talked to Officer Elrich, that the parking that is actually on Spalding has decreased. The workers, is what I believe, are now parking in the front of Global Recycling. I mean, they're like 3 deep. So it's better, but there are still pictures, I love to bring pictures, that I have that show the parking is still illegal. We cannot make a right-hand turn on Lambert to get on Spalding without having a semi there. So even after Officer Ellis stopped the recycling, Global Recycling is still not approved. The gates for Global Recycling are opening up even earlier. The issue was that the semis were waiting until 7 o'clock until they were opening. They are now opening up at least closer to 6:30. My husband will witness this when he leaves to go to the train station. Oh, sorry. Using my teacher voice instead. Sorry. Starts tomorrow. I got to get used to it. So the gates are opening up earlier at 6:30 versus 7 o'clock is what it's usually been, and that's where I start to see them, the semis waiting and the inappropriate behavior. Like I said, I start school tomorrow, so we'll see if that inappropriate behavior will pick up again tomorrow. They are now parking, and I believe it's the employees, they are now parking on the back end of the recycling along the fence. The fence that is now the proposed new driveway area. So not only are we seeing it on Spalding, we're also seeing it behind. It's just all over the parking. The trucks, I mean, I have pictures here that even Global Recycling is the one that's parking illegally. It's not just the customers. And this is just me taking pictures while I'm driving around Bartlett. And I'm not doing it. My sons are doing it in the seat right there. So I asked that the Spalding Road improvements be put on hold, discuss further options so that the Castle Creek owners will actually have input into something that's going to affect our neighborhood. So if I'd like to approach this and add this on.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the board at this time?
Good evening. My name is Krishna Kalagara, 637 Versailles Drive,
Bartlett. I am here along with my community members who just spoke to express our concern and our community concern regarding the Spalding Road improvements, especially the global recycling driveway change onto the Lambert Lane. We do not support this move of moving the driveway onto the Lambert Lane for many reasons, and few of them are it's facing to our community, and it will be across the bike and a walkway where many families and kids walk and ride bikes, and it's going to be intersecting that bike path, which is a safety concern, and it's going to be again noise and noise concern, and there is also already a public announcement on that business, and I don't know if that's approved, and it's already a lot of noise, and it starts waking up people at 7 a.m. on weekends, and it's so loud, and I'm to the north end of the community, and we still hear it. And the other concern is the whole business parking lot is not paved. It already brings a lot of dirt during winter and rainy seasons. It already brings a lot of dirt along with the truck wheels onto the Spalding. Now that's going to bring all that mud and dirt onto the Lambert, which is a very nice community, and other side of the street is a nice pond and where people walk and dogs walk, and that's not going to spoil the whole environment. And the other problem, as Mrs. Allison just expressed, is the parking concern, and I would request if there could be a way that a no parking sign could be established on an intersection at the Lambert and Spalding. And I was reading Illinois law that there can be parking near an intersection. Doesn't matter how big an intersection is. They park it right on the intersection and the opposite side of the street, like in the opposite where she presented pictures of those, even after our last meeting in August, where we expressed the concern, and the pictures are from after that. And I was able to grab pictures of those too. And that's all. And hopefully, board will take into consideration our concerns. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Krishna. Anybody else like to address the board at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to the standing committee reports this evening. The first standing committee report is Planning and Zoning Committee, Chairman Ranke.
Thank you, Mr. President. The two items on planning and zoning were addressed on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Chairman Ranke. The next item we have this evening under standing committee reports is the Building Committee, Chairman Hopkins.
Thank you, President Wallace. There's nothing to report tonight.
Thank you, Chairman Hopkins. Next item we have under standing committee reports is Finance and Golf Committee, Chairman Daney.
Mr. President, everything was covered under the consent agenda. We have nothing else to report this evening.
Thank you, Chairman Daney. Next item we have this evening under License and Ordinance Committee is Chairman Ahrens.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item 1, Wayne Township Bicycle Plan was not covered in the consent agenda. And this is a resolution supporting the Wayne Township Road Commissioner's bicycle plan. We've all seen it. And at this time, I would move to approve Resolution 2016-63. 63?
Yes.
63, a resolution in support of the Wayne Township Bicycle Plan.
Second.
It's moved by Trustee Ahrens and second by Trustee Kammer. Is there any discussion?
Other than the fact that we've reviewed it through the bicycle committee and found that it will be a valuable study that will help the community in whole. And I think it's a good thing that we're moving forward on it. I think it'll be useful. I think we have other work within different townships within Bartlett that also need to be addressed, but from the Wayne Township perspective, I think it will be helpful.
Thank you, Chairman Kammer.
Has staff identified any inexpensive things to do in this plan?
I beg your pardon? I'm not.
Has staff identified any simple and inexpensive things in the Wayne Township plan that we could implement right away?
There are some things in there, and we've been looking through it, and we've had staff at all these meetings as it's been developed. So I think that there are some things we could look at doing quickly.
I also think that's something that the bicycle committee is working on currently, and we're trying to come up with things that we can address first, whether it means repairs or new bicycle paths or whatever we can come up with that we can afford. And that becomes the issue right now, is finding money to do what we have to do. But we're looking.
One of the things that we're working on right now, and we're hoping it's going to be quick and easy, is we have some information that some of the money for our paths out west that have been held up may be released, but there's a process that we have to go through to get that again. And so that's what we're looking at right now, and that would be great if we could get that without too much effort.
Great. Any other discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Daney?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Kammerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
That motion carries.
All other items under license and ordinance were covered under the consent agenda, and that would conclude our business tonight.
Thank you, Chairman Ahrens. Next item under standing committee reports, we have Police and Health Committee, Chairman Carbonaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing to report this evening.
Chairman Carbonaro. Finally, under standing committee reports, we have Public Works Committee, Chairman Kammerer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The two items we had tonight, one of them was on the consent agenda, the Smart Ready LED street lighting agreement. But the second one, the Spalding Road Quiet Zone Eagle Z and Global Recycling amended agreement, we still need to talk about a little bit. And there have been some changes made, and I thought that perhaps I can let our Public Works Director, Dan, comment about some of those changes with regards to the parking, that we've increased the parking spaces. I know that some of the residents are concerned about that, and anything else that might be beneficial that you might contribute to.
Thank you, Trustee Kammerer. Yes, we actually talked to Global, and we were able to, we're basically going to have 20 spaces along the driveway that they're talking about at the north end. It would continue okay, if you can bring that picture up. So there's the proposed driveway off of Lambert. It's roughly 300 feet north of Spalding. And as it comes into the Global facility, parking would then head west. And that shows actually the 10 spaces. There's an additional 10 spaces that we added that would continue west along their north fence line. In talking with Global, we believe that that should resolve the issue of the parking on Lambert and Spalding. So that's the main thing that we've been looking at. As far as screening, we are looking at screening on both sides of the driveway to help for that visual into the Global facility. But as you know, this is in conjunction with the quiet zone, that in order to get the quiet zone, we need to close off their driveway that currently exits onto Spalding just east of the tracks. So that driveway will be closed. Is there anything
As
else?
far as the quiet zone, is it going to address the noise levels that the residents are concerned about? I mean,
the quiet zone will, once the quiet zone gets put in place, the trains will no longer have to blow their horn as long as there's nothing that they see as an immediate threat.
And that's what really started this, was the concern of the residents out there with the noise of the train. We were able to accomplish that. We've worked on it for a couple of years, and in the meantime, we have this development out there that's unincorporated and frankly a mess. And we're able to bring them into the process, clean up a lot of it, put up some landscaping and some barriers. Now, they're not in Bartlett, so we really don't have any ability to do that other than negotiations, and continue to keep the trucks that we can off of Spalding, which is the second issue. So we've tried to take a crack at all the concerns that have come up, and I think it's going to improve.
Right, just north of their new driveway, we'll have signs for the trucking that can't go north of their new driveway.
So in theory, the trucks shouldn't be on Lambert at all then?
Right, well, other than that portion up to the drive. They'll come from Spalding from the west, turn left onto Lambert up to that driveway, that new driveway north of Global, and that's where they'll access into Global. So they won't continue north from that point. And then when they're exiting, they'll have to exit right and head south onto Lambert and head west onto Spalding.
And we were able to coordinate our timing, as I mentioned before, with Metra doing improvements down there, and we're probably going to save about $50,000 being able to have Metra absorb some of the construction that was originally included in our plan.
Any other questions by the board? Well, it sounds like we have some code enforcement issues on that subject property, and have we discussed them with Cook County Code Enforcement?
We have, and we had a Cook County Code Enforcement officer for one of our meetings last spring when we did it, and I won't pretend that there's a tremendous amount of interest in Cook County for the very, edge of their county, and cleaning this up to the point that we're able to, frankly, I think is important because we have absolutely no jurisdiction. What we can do is continue to bring Cook County Code Enforcement out and try to get their attention to do some of the cleanup.
It just seems to me that it's completely unacceptable that you've got trucks parking on Spalding and Lambert.
That's the point of these
right,
improvements is
right.
to bring, 20 cars, which would be more of their customers and maybe employees, into that lot. They're parking illegally on the corner on our property. We've kicked them off of that, but they manage. They're all along the tracks there. I mean, the neighbors are correct. It's, it's a mess.
Would you like to, well, go on, Brian. Does the board have an objection if we allow one of the residents to make a comment? He's raising his hand back there. Why don't you come to the microphone and make a comment again?
My name is Bob Strama, 621 Versailles Drive in Bartlett. The only comment about the problem with global recycling right now is that they overpack their facility with vehicles. They also go out into the driveway. So the problem that they have is that the trucks, the semi-trucks that come in, cannot pull in and cannot turn around, along with their customers and also their employees that are there. So by adding the driveway over there, and if you take a look at that, those semi-trucks are not going to be able to back down that driveway. They're not going to be able to go in there and turn around with the cars parked in that driveway. The problem that you have to solve is what they're doing with their semi-trucks, which is they're turning them around the middle of the road. Now, Lambert is also a throughway for all of the buses during the school year. So first thing in the morning at 6:30 a.m., you have a high school bus coming down that road, and if you also have a semi-truck trying to back into Lambert, trying to back into that turn right there, which is going to be extremely difficult at that angle, they're going to be blocking Lambert. There's a number of other considerations besides the parking and the cleanup that taking into place here is that those trucks are partly it's the trucks are the main problem. They've overstocked, they've outgrown their facility, they overstock the facility with vehicles, and they park them on the outside. Flatly, what they need to do is they need to move into a larger facility or add on to it. That's the main problem because they need to have a turnaround. You would not allow somebody to open a retail store, to open a restaurant or anything else without parking or being able to pull their vehicles into that facility. And that's basically what you have here. They've gone ahead and stocked the facility itself with product versus leaving room for parking spots, which you would require at any other retail venue. If you had Home Depot on the corner fill their entire parking lot with product and had everyone parking out on 59, that would be a problem. It's basically the same scenario that you have here, except for now that what they're doing is they're blocking residential traffic. So
they're not in Bartlett, remember, so we have no ability to affect those issues that you raise. You're right.
I understand they're not in Bartlett, but Lambert itself right now, at least the semi-trucks are not blocking Lambert. They're not turning around on Lambert. They're not causing their trouble. They are around the corner at Spalding, which is an inconvenience and a problem in itself. And I understand that they're not in Bartlett, and you can't enforce that. But there's no reason to reward them by moving the intersection and allowing them just more room to be able to spread out and cause more trouble on Lambert.
Let me say that in the drive area and that parking on the north, that's in an easement that so the village still owns the property, and that's actually in the village. So we can police that they don't do that there. It specifically states that it's for operable vehicles of their customers. So we'll have some jurisdiction, if you will, and some teeth and some enforcement ability relative to that, because I agree with you, anywhere they can park, expand their operation and put product, they do. But they won't be able to there.
Hopefully they don't.
We're trying to get them off of the streets,
right?
At least as far as the vehicle parking goes.
But it's the semi-trucks, though, is the other problem, because they're not going to be able to back down that road, and they won't be able to turn around in that small parking lot if it does have vehicles in it. And that's the bigger problem, is that they should be able to pull into the facility. There's a picture, actually, I think that Ms. Allison Ozog had in there. When you look in the side of the facility, they should be able to pull their vehicles in, turn them around, load them up, and pull out. They should not be loading those trucks up on Spalding or in the driveway or anywhere else. And that's the concern, is that what's going to happen at Lambert, unless somebody's sitting there watching that all day, they're going to do exactly the same thing. And you've got bus traffic that comes along Lambert. There's a significant amount of bus traffic. Plus, even though that you're not supposed to be driving trucks down there, there's quite a few other trucks that come down Spalding and cut down that way. So I think they may want to revisit this. I think that this is going to cause a bigger problem, especially during the school year, with buses and with those trucks that are going to be there.
You mentioned buses and trucks backing down driveways, so I want to make sure whatever we do, it's safe. So if he has a legitimate, complaint here, we really need to.
We had the engineer design that and figure truck turns and radiuses to pull in. But if in the rest of their property, they pack it to where they can't, move it within, then that's a legitimate point. But we don't have control over that. I will say that as part of the improvements along Spalding, there's going to be some area to the side where the trucks could stage, so at least they're not staged on and parked on Lambert if you have more than one semi there at a time. Right now, there isn't really space there for that, even though they do it.
Any public notices go out to the residents?
Pardon?
Any public notices go out to any of the residents?
This is not a zoning change or anything that would require that.
Well, I do have to say, this started out years ago with the quiet zone, and a whole lot of residents concerned about the noise who came in here and packed the boardroom several years ago and said, you have to do something about the trains. And we did.
And just so I can be clear, there are no houses that abut Lambert then? Ivory Lane is that what you've got?
The backs of those houses.
It's a detention basis, so that's the back of Ivory Lane. So there's no houses on Lambert, just to make sure it's not blacked out or something. Right. Okay. And where is the property line for the business there? How much property do they own? That's it. Well, then how can we extend out the parking that?
We're putting it in an easement.
Okay.
And the village extended this easement in exchange for having the truck traffic go out Spalding Road.
Well, but up further where we added the, and we said we added 10 spaces. Who owns that property? That's the easement as well?
We do.
Then we own further north there as well?
Yes. Yeah, we don't want to encourage expansion of their facility.
No, absolutely
We're
not.
just trying to solve the parking. They wanted all kinds of acres, and then it would be a bigger, they'll never leave.
Right. Okay. So we have a bit of a conundrum, so to speak. I mean, we have a business that's not in our jurisdiction, and we really don't want to encourage them to stay here by giving them better parking situations, and yet it's an issue on Lambert. I get what you guys are saying.
Let me ask you a question. Is the traffic congestion and the problems of the view from your homes worse than the noise of the trains?
Some people.
Yeah, I think.
But some people told us just the opposite of that several years ago. Because I was filled with complaints of people saying stuff was rambling off their houses, and that when they blow the train, they don't blow it once, they blow it 2 or 3 times. And so we have some conflicting stories as far as, the board's trying to do the right thing here, because if we don't do this, there's no quiet zone. And this has had a lot of planning and effort and information, and granted, it's not something that goes before our board, because this was negotiations with an outside entity. Cook County ordinances, people that aren't really in our jurisdiction, trying to work out a compromise. So the business isn't going to disappear. If you don't like what this is, where's the solution?
Down the front of the facility that's on Lambert right there, part of it is that if they're going to stock the facility with vehicles, junk cars, they need to make room for a pull-through for those semi-trucks. Part of the big problem is that those trucks back into the facility, well, they can't even actually get all the way in. They pull back into the driveway right now off of Spalding. And you can see it, and that's partly what all those pictures are. If a redesign was going to happen, and you could get the best of both worlds out of this, it would probably be putting the parking lot on the front side of the facility by their fence, which is across Lambert, but leaving a pull-through so that the semi-trucks could come straight through. They could load them up and take them out. Because unless you can regulate how many cars they're putting in there so that they have a turnaround, but there's got to be something you can do to regulate it so that instead of them backing in, which is what they're doing today, and which they'll probably try to do with Lambert, because quite frankly, I know that there's probably plenty of engineers that are much smarter than the homeowners that were looking at this, but if they load that up with cars in the parking lot, they're not going to be able to turn a truck around. If that's what the reliance is that a truck is going to turn around in that parking lot, they need to make room for a pull-through so that they can load those trucks up, drive them all the way through, and get out instead of backing up in the middle of traffic. The other thing is that the parking lot could go right down the front of the facility on Lambert, which is there's an opportunity for that right there versus down the side on the left. I don't know if you turn that into a pull-through from that driveway, and there's another exit that comes out towards the front. I don't know what the requirements are for the distance from the railroad, for example, but that is one of the things to take a look at is some type of pull-through for those trucks versus having them back up or back in and blocking the road. So it's not that, understand the business is there and that they've been there and that they need to do business, but at the same point, they shouldn't be rewarded because that they have no room in their facility because they've gone and overloaded it. There's got to be some other compromise of which that they can provide what would be reasonable safety and not have semi-trucks backing into their facility off of main thoroughfares, whether it be Spalding or Lambert, that there might be a pull-through of some scenario where they can load them up and move. I mean, it seems to be pretty simple and straightforward.
Certainly all this work wasn't, the intent of it wasn't to reward them. It was just to get a quiet zone for your neighborhood. Certainly the intent.
We looked at many of the issues you raised, and there are some restrictions relative to the distance to the tracks. So we had to be further back from the tracks. It did not work and they are, one thing that wasn't agreeable was restricting the yard itself. They could solve the problem by not overstacking areas even today, but they do. But in terms of a second pull-through, effectively to get this quiet zone, any entrance onto Spalding in that area cannot take place under the regulations of the railroads and the ICC. So that's.
Is there an opportunity for them to have a pull-through where they can exit onto Lambert at the corner?
And that was too close to the intersection with the truck in terms of the movements there.
Because I think right now the situation I think that you run into is that if you approve this, you move forward with it, what's going to happen is that you're going to see trucks backing in off of Lambert, and then this is going to end up getting revisited down the road again. Because those trucks, and I understand that they're trying to do business, and it's not that I'm trying to stop them from doing their business. It's just that in the way that they operate today and what they do and the way those trucks back in is that the more room you give them, the more they're going to put, which is not going to leave the room to turn around. It's not going to leave room for those trucks to pull in and back out, and they're going to end up blocking the road. And, for the most part, for the residents, you get inconvenienced once in a while. It's not an issue. But when you have bus traffic and the schools in the morning, coming through there at the same time that they're opening, and then during the day, when they're pulling out, when they start blocking the roads, you've got kids walking through, it's a different issue.
Chief, is it legal to back a semi on a public road into a driveway?
It's considered commerce, and you have to give them reasonable accommodations. But we could look at the specifics of that for you. But I'd be reluctant to tell you right now. I could start arresting and citing these trucks for making reasonable backs in to deliver. You have to allow commerce to deliver. And if that's the only way they can do it, that would be considered a reasonable accommodation.
What we can do is police the parking on Lambert and keep them off of there from stacking. But the movement itself they would be able to do. There is some in the plans that Metra has and the widening there, there's some ability to any trucks, if there's more than one, to stack along Spalding that doesn't realistically exist today. So it's, I believe, an improvement and to enable us to get this quiet zone that it'll benefit over 2,000 residents. But these folks raise some legitimate concerns, and these are concerns that we talk to them about, and I think we can write tickets as to those areas that we have control over if they're not abiding by our ordinances in those portions of property that are within our jurisdiction and control. So, but in terms of, them stocking up their property to where they don't leave themselves room, that's been their history. And the residents are right about that, and we'll have to, but then when they start getting tickets for being parked out on Lambert, maybe that'll solve the problem.
Has the village approached the owner and had a conversation with him regarding this at all?
Many
times.
Many.
This guy just isn't a reasonable person, or he doesn't come across as a reasonable person, I guess you could say.
Well,
a reasonable person would
say,
we're going to work with you, we're going to try to make this happen. Have the residents ever tried to approach the management of this global recycling that live in the area? Have you guys as a community,
They've approached us to come up with keep the trucks off of the road, and that's how we had the first agreement. So they've been our concern. But
how much easement do we have there? From the top, where we put in the new driveway. Do we have room to have them come in and develop a circular pattern right there and back out? I'm talking about to the north. And they come in, load, and go out to the north, like a dual driveway thing out of there?
Here and then back.
Something like that?
Yeah, it brings the trucks further north, but that is not impossible. But, then they're not willing to pay for it. It gets to be expensive on our dime.
Can I
benefit them?
Piece of property, when you start getting up in here to build this, you get a lot of uneven terrain. You've got to build it's more expensive construction amount than just putting in this little bit here. So
A lot.
If you build that whole driveway, you're talking about leveling all this.
You're not showing all of the parking, right? There's an additional parking to the west of there, right?
Is it like double that?
Yeah, it's double that. So, I would make a case that it seems to me that this is a first stage Possibly it'll make things better. Possibly, I don't think it's going to make it worse than it is right now, right? It's not going to make it any worse. And it gets a quiet zone. So I would make the case for, see what happens here. See what we can do policing the area. See how it works, and see if it's a win-win, and if it's not good enough at that point, we've improved the situation. It's not a good situation now, because you got train whistles and you've got congestion, and it's not going to change unless we do something, right? So I would make a case for the fact that we're going to have more parking, off-street parking. We can enforce some of that, and we can make this stage one and see if it improves the situation, and maybe eventually prove it better. That would be my case.
I need to ask a question. Is there any possibility that we can continue negotiations with the current owner to try and rectify the situation that these residents are talking about?
We can. We miss our time frame with Metra for doing some joint improvements, but we are always willing to continue to negotiate if we give up that time frame. Certainly.
I would tell you we've done that.
I'm sorry, what?
I would say we've been doing that. And
we have.
I would recommend
We have.
going
For
forward.
actually several years now we've met with him.
Right.
Why don't we table this until we...
Well, that was...
We want to get some of this done. Right. It's been an ongoing...
The one thing I will say is if we don't approve it, we can't have the contracts that Metra will allow us to work with them to save us some money with the crossing is being replaced, and the contracts that we have to do the quiet zone get all blown out of the water, and we may not be able to do the quiet zone because there's a time frame that we're into quite a bit to get the quiet zone done.
We've kicked the can down the road a long ways.
We also own the piece to the north, so along the idea of if it's a problem, could you loop and have a second access point? The answer is yes, we have that ability, but it's a cost factor. Then, who's going to pay for that? But that, could be phase 2 if that's what you're talking about.
Yep. Can I just add something real quick? Mike Tippett, 620 Versailles Drive. Not only is it unsightly, but it's also a debris issue. These trucks carry junked cars, parts falling off, glass falling off, bolts falling off.
Right.
I leave Lambert every day. I usually go on Spalding. It's not normally an issue, but if I turn and head west, there's debris all over the place. I've had 2 flat tires from picking up glass and nuts and bolts and things like that. These guys are also working on their cars in the street and wherever they can. There's actually 2 junked cars sitting on the corner of Lambert and Spalding now.
But this would clean that up.
How? Why would it clean it up? If you can't clean it up now, why would this clean it up?
Because they won't be able to get over the curbs and some of the improvements there. They won't be able to have access to that area. And some of that, then we can keep them off of that.
What?
Yeah.
There's going to be turn improvements and non-mountable curbs and things where they aren't going to be able to just park in the grass there as they've been outside of their boundaries.
Yeah.
So that part we think this will improve. Now, as far as could there be debris, because now instead of on Spalding, they're going to have some of those vehicles, if they're coming off of the trucks. Could there be some on Lambert? The answer is yes, but on Lambert we can police, tickets if they don't clean that stuff up and have some control over that.
But that debris falls off regardless of whether they're going over curbs or not. And now I will not have an opportunity to avoid it. It'll be up and down Lambert, all the way up to that point.
The debris has been falling off for years, so it's still there.
Right.
Spalding or Lambert, it's still, we can't kick them out of the village.
Correct, but now because their entrance is on Spalding, I can go down Lambert and turn east on Spalding and avoid it. Mm-hmm. When you move their entrance, I won't be able to get out of my subdivision with the exception of Lake Street.
That's a policeable event as well. debris.
Yeah,
in
we
the
worked
road.
with this community many years ago to help lock down Lambert Road to keep all truck traffic off it and force it west through Elgin. That proved successful, but then the quiet zone became an issue, and since then it's been a challenge.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here, and ladies. We appreciate your comments.
The driveway off of Lambert, and you start to do a Google map, won't it send the trucks down Lambert Drive?
They will only be able to go up to the entrance by coming the same circuitous route they do now, west on Spalding, north on Lambert, to that entrance.
I get that because that is the closest spot to go to, but now that you've moved the entrance closer, more north,
They can't go
fastest way to
north.
get there is going to go straight down Lambert.
They can't, well,
They can't.
I know they can't, but
We
they're going
will
to still do it.
continue to enforce the truck traffic ban on Lambert, so they can go north a tiny little bit. We are not proposing to have any change, and certainly that's going to take some increased policing on our part. And as you mentioned earlier, there is another truck facility that's going in Elgin to the north, and we intend to police that as well.
I would also then suggest to have a stop sign by the park by Lambert, because there's going to be more traffic, let it be cars or trucks. We need something to slow them down. So whatever I need to do to propose that, let me know.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So any other questions of the board? If not, then
I would just make one final comment, just to suggest the amount of effort we're trying to make here to improve this whole area. And it's certainly never a perfect plan, but there are deadlines and timelines that are attached to this that have been hours and hours and hours and hours of negotiations and meetings. So can you take that into consideration on your vote, please?
okay, that being said, I move the passage of ordinance 2016-64. Five. An ordinance rescinding resolution 2016-54-R and approving the first amended agreement to approbate permanent easements and temporary easements, grant replacement permanent easement and agreement to construct access drive, purchase and sale agreement with regarding to adjoining parcel, and grant of additional parking parcel easement and cost sharing among the Village of Bartlett, Eagle Z Properties, LLC, and Global Recycling and Repair Corporation.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Kammer, seconded by Trustee Ranke. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Hopkins?
No.
Ranke?
No.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Kammerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Daney?
I reluctantly have to vote yes because of the timeline we're under, but I would wish that we could continue negotiations with the current owner to improve the traffic there.
You only get to vote.
I know, but I'm going to say what I want to say, all right? And I wish that the village would continue negotiating with the present owner to improve the residents' concerns with the truck traffic. So I reluctantly vote yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all we have for this evening.
Thank you, Chairman Kammerer. Next item we have this evening on our agenda is new business. Does anyone have any new business they'd like to share? Hearing none. Questions, anyone?
How was National Night Out?
It was fabulous, and we are the new world record whistleblowers in
It's
the
official?
country. Has it been official yet?
No, I have heard nothing but raves about the whistleblower and how much fun it was, and all the people that were there, how well it was organized. Kudos to all of
the credit for that. We're sending in our official packet this week to the folks who will look it over and decide if we won.
Fantastic. Anything else? Hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We'll be moving directly into the committee of the whole meeting following this meeting.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Aaron's, seconded by Trustee Daney, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camera?
Yes, here.
Carbonaro?
Here.
Haney?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
We are adjourned.